Hi class! Today we're going to talk about the difference between independent and dependent variables. These are important parts of the scientific method, which is the way that scientists devise and perform experiments. First you form a question, and then you formulate a hypothesis and design a procedure. And in these two and three, an independent variable and a dependent variable are really important to identify. Could you guys tell me what you think of when you think of the word independent? What is Independence Day? What does it mean to be independent? Katie?
To be free and unrestrained.
Perfect. What about the word dependent? What does that mean? Mark?
To rely on something.
Good. To rely on something. To have someone that you rely on. What about the word variable? Like think about math class. What is X? Claire?
It stands in for something else that can change.
Perfect. It stands in for something else that can change. And now, unsurprisingly, the definitions for independent variable and dependent variable are very similar to what you guys already just told me. The independent variable is what I change, what you as the experimenter change in the experiment. And the dependent variable is what I measure, I being the experimenter. What are you going to measure as the success of each independent variable? Say you're doing an experiment between plants and water, and you're going to give plants Coca-Cola, water, or lemonade. In this experiment, the liquid is the independent variable because you change it. And the dependent variable is the height of the plants. It's the measure of the growth. How well did the plants grow with each liquid? Let's take a look at one more. So let's say you read somewhere in maybe Time magazine that music has an effect on academic performance, and you want to test this in your middle school. So you devise you get three groups of students together to listen to three different types of music. Pop music, rap music, and classical music. And then you each have them take a test, the same test, maybe it's a spelling test. The pop music group gets an 86% average on the test. The rap music group gets a 70% average on the test. The classical group gets a 50%. Could someone tell me what the independent variable was in this experiment? Mark?
The type of music.
Good! And notice how Mark said the type of music, not pop music or rap music. It's the entire type because it changes, it's a variable. What about the dependent variable? Katie?
Their scores on the test.
Perfect. The scores on the test are a measure of how well they did on the test, and it's a measure of their academic performance. You guys just measured how music might affect academic performance. All right, let's take a look at your worksheet. Let's do one more. Katie?
Quick question. What would I do with this information once I've collected it?
Great question. So the independent and dependent variable are important for you and for your audience when you're explaining your experiment, because they help you organize what you're actually going to do. When you know what the independent variable is and the dependent variable, now you're ready to start the procedure. You're ready to divide up your groups and measure something meaningful. And then you can communicate that to your audience.
Thank you.
Great. Let's take a look at number 2. Mark, could you read that?
If I fill 3 balloons with 1 mole of helium, oxygen, or nitrogen, respectively, the balloon filled with helium will have the greatest volume.
Claire, what is the independent variable in this experiment?
It's the elements, so helium, oxygen, or nitrogen.
Perfect. Katie, what about the dependent variable?
It's the volume of the balloon.
Awesome. You guys did a great job with that. That is in a traditional if-then question form. And that is typically how you would see the independent variable and dependent variable appear in a hypothesis. All right. So you guys just learned this. So we want to come up with a chant so that you can remember it as you go on through the rest of your science classes. So stand up. Let's do a chant. Now, this is a symbol for delta, which is the symbol for change. So we're going to use this when we say the word change. And this is like a ruler. So we're going to say this when we measure. When we say the word measure. So repeat after me. Independent variables are what I change.
Independent variables are what I change.
Dependent variables are what I measure.
Dependent variables are what I measure.
All together. Independent variables are what I change. Dependent variables are what I measure. Great. You guys can sit down now. Any more questions? Any? Okay. Great job, guys. Pass the high five. Awesome.